This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. Talking the stories that are shaping headlines, plus those that make you go,
Hi everybody, good morning. Welcome back to the Morning Majlis, the show where we talk about stories shaping the headlines. It's me, Ahmed Dawood, with Rania Sadi, and we have so much to talk about this morning. We're going to give you the latest COVID-19 update from around the world. We've been studying and reporting on the financial impact of COVID-19 on countries around the world. And this hour, we're going to take a bit of a focus on Africa, as statements from experts and analysts weighing in on how much it needs to recover from COVID-19 losses. So we're going to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on the continent as a whole, as well as efforts, multi-directional efforts to pull it out from this situation. So stay tuned as we discuss that. Plus, we're going to be talking about social media.
Social media, indeed. Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting conversation, a very sensitive one as well.
Yeah.
So just stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about the Social Dilemma film, the Netflix's docudrama film, which explores the rise of social media and the damage it has caused to society. Focusing on its exploitation of its users for financial gain through surveillance capitalism and data mining, and how it's designed, its design is meant to nurture an addiction, its use in politics, its effect on mental health, and its role in spreading conspiracy theories. Very sensitive conversation. They interview former employees at many tech companies such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Google, YouTube, and so much more. And many left the companies due to ethical concerns, which raises the question that they asked them during the film, what do you think the problem is with social media? And it's interesting how all of them paused before they answered that question. But after they collected their thoughts on what the problem is, they had plenty to unveil about what's going on in Silicon Valley and how those tech giants operate in manipulating every individual's brain and emotions, and how they influence even your romantic life, your political views, how they can spread conspiracy theories, how monetization works as they use you as their product. So very sensitive conversation, very dense one, so stay tuned. It will be after 9:30, hopefully.
Yeah, yes, it will be, and a pretty packed discussion for us to have on the show. Let us know ahead, however. Text lines are open, 4215. Do you feel that social media has a negative impact on your life or the life of your friends and loved ones? If so, could you talk to us about that? Let us know. The text lines are open, 4215. We've got a lot of stories lined up for us this hour, including our sports update as well. So stay tuned for that and so much more on The Morning Majlis.
Pulse 95.
The Morning Majlis. Talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
This is a conversation not to miss. This is about our lives. This is about our everyday life. This is why we're going to be reviewing this film and what it entails, really. The film is The Social Dilemma. It's a Netflix 2020 American docudrama film, which explores the rise of social media and the damage it has caused to society. And it focuses on its exploitation of its users for financial gain through surveillance capitalism and also data mining, and how its design is meant to nurture an addiction in its use in politics, its effect on mental health, especially including the mental health of adolescents and rising teen suicide rates, and its role in spreading conspiracy theories. Now, they interview throughout the film former employees at companies such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Google, YouTube, and so much more. Many left the companies, according to them, due to ethical concerns, which raises the question, what do you think the problem is? Throughout the interview, they asked them, what do you think the problem is? And it's interesting how all of them paused before they answered that question. But after they collected their thoughts on what the problem is, they had plenty to unveil, as they have obviously the inside scoop of what happens in Silicon Valley and how those tech giants operate in manipulating every individual's brain and emotions. and their political views and their influence, even on your romantic life, how they spread conspiracy theories and how monetization works as you are their products. So this is how it works. Now, former associate, for example, at Google, when they asked them, or when they asked him, what is the problem with social media?
Yeah.
He said, it's easy today to lose sight of the fact that these tools actually have created some wonderful things in the world. They've reunited lost family members. They've found organ donors. There were meaningful systemic changes happening around the world because of these platforms that were positive. But, he says, I think we were naive about the flip side of that coin.
It's a pretty fascinating interview as to the mechanisms in which social media is designed from the ground up to emotionally, psychologically manipulate its users, to keep them scrolling, and essentially they've hijacked your mind to feed an addiction, especially among users. And typically, especially among the younger ones, say on Instagram, there's this perceived sense of perfection that you get out of likes and hearts and thumbs up. And people tend to conflate that with value and truth. And the documentary, which we are discussing this segment, The Social Dilemma, talks about the nefarious aspects of those mechanisms and how they are used to manipulate you, to get you to buy products endlessly, and even propagate harmful thoughts into your head.
Absolutely. And as for some of the main problems of the social media frenzy going on right now, according to those former employees, they're saying, I kind of collected the problems that they stated.
Yeah.
I put them all in one document. Those problems being, a new study sheds light on the link between mental health and social media use, and it shows tens of millions of Americans, if we're talking about America, are hopelessly addicted to their electronic devices, which as a result can lead to isolation of oneself in a bubble. Another problem, fake news, is becoming more advanced and threatening societies around the world, causing civil wars. And that's what they're scared of. That's what they said in the end of the film. What are you most scared of from these social media platforms and their impact? They're saying we're scared of civil wars to erupt more often. Another popular trend on the rise as well, these cosmetic procedures that are becoming so popular with teens. Plastic surgeons have coined a new syndrome for it. They're calling it Snapchat dysmorphia, with young patients wanting surgery so they can look more like they do in filtered selfies. That's another problem as well. Now, surveillance capitalism has come to shape our politics and culture in ways many people don't perceive. That's another problem as well. And there is polarization in some elections, in some elections that are getting hacked. If we're talking about the political implications here, that's why the entire tech industry is under a new level of scrutiny. But what is there beneath all these problems that's causing all these things to happen at once? One associate said that the first 50 years of Silicon Valley, the industry made products, hardware, software, sold them to customers. That's nice, simple business. But for the last 10 years, the biggest companies in Silicon Valley have been in the business for selling their users. Not their hardware, not their software anymore. It's about their users. It's about you and me. It's a little even kind of tried to say, but because we don't pay for the products that we use, advertisers pay for the products that we use.
We're the product, yeah.
Exactly. So advertisers are the customers. We're the thing being sold. We're the product. And a lot of people think, oh, okay, well, Google's just a search box and Facebook's just a place to see what my friends are doing and see their photos. But they don't want you to realize that they're competing for your attention. And let's figure out how to get as much of this person's attention as we possibly can. That's what they think. How much time can we get them to spend, more time to spend on those platforms? How much of your life can we get you to give to us? There are all these services on internet that they think that we think of as free, but they're not free. They're paid for by advertisers. And now, why do advertisers pay those companies? They pay in exchange for showing their ads to us. We're the product. Our attention is the product being sold to advertisers. So in order to be successful in that business, you have to have great predictions. And great predictions begin with one imperative: you need a lot of data.
You need a lot of data, and your information's constantly feeding this algorithm as you browse social media
Exactly.
platforms. And in order for the algorithm to keep you engaged, they recommend you content that they have essentially figured out by observing your behavior, by studying your patterns. And the documentary was delving into the social and political impact of that, and it spoke about the hyper individuality, the sense of being in an echo chamber. As you continue browsing social media and the algorithms continue to recommend you more specialized material, the further you go and the more social media hones in on your individual preference, it becomes an echo chamber that basically reaffirms your worldview over and over and over again, possibly at the expense of objective truth. And one concrete example of that was put forward by the tech experts that were featured in the Social Dilemma was the flat earth theory.
Yeah.
They said that anyone that had previously shown interest in any conspiracy theory videos or might have indicated that they would be more open to engaging in such content was more likely to be served something related to flat earthers. And this fosters an environment where the spread of dangerous, false, fake information, fake news is a lot easier, and makes it so that different groups of people are seeing very different sets of truths, prompting a lot to say that social media itself should be regulated on the quality of information being presented, because it has massive implications, especially for elections around the world.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And actually, according to one of the former employees at one of those Silicon Valley tech giants, he said, I want people to know is that everything that they're doing online is being watched. It's being tracked. It's being measured. Every single action you take is carefully monitored and recorded. Exactly what image you stop and look at and for how long you look at it. Yeah, exactly. Like how long you look at it, they know. They know when people are lonely. They know when people are depressed. They know when people are looking at photos of their, let's just say, their exes. They know what you're doing late at night. They know the entire thing. Whether you're an introvert, whether you're an extrovert, what your personality type is, they know. And with this data, they build business models that predict our actions as users. And whoever has the best model wins. So the model, once you have it, you can predict the kind of things that person does. With those predictions, they can... Now, let's go back to the monetization.
Yeah.
With those predictions, they know what ads to push on you. And that made sense because, for example, when I go and navigate through Google, for example, and I look for, and this happens all the time, I look for a specific, let's just say, brand of skincare product. And the minute I look for it, I just scroll through it, even if I don't buy from the website of that brand. The next day, or even maybe a few hours later, if I'm looking through, for example, a YouTube video, I see the ad of the same brand that I was navigating the website of an hour ago or a day ago, and so on and so forth. So that's something that's kind of scary. Sometimes, the other day, I was talking to you guys, you and Abdul Karim, about this. I was talking about, we were talking about McDonald's. We didn't even I don't know if this is a coincidence or not. I'm thinking it's not. But we were talking about McDonald's. And then we saw an ad. We were scrolling through something. I was scrolling through something. Abdul Karim was scrolling through something online. And then we saw so many ads for McDonald's.
So creepy when that happens.
It's so creepy. It's just, it's not a coincidence. I'm thinking
you
it's
search
not.
it once, or you're texting a friend about something, suddenly magically shows up in your ads. It's a really off-putting feeling, like, wait, what's going on here? How did you get this information?
And they say that even when you go on Google and you search for something, now you're living in the UAE, someone else is living in Nigeria, let's say. If you search, for example, they say, for example, climate change is on Google. You being a resident or living in the UAE, you will get a different answer than the one in Nigeria.
Oh, yeah.
Why? Because they're pushing, they want to control what you will learn. They want to control the information that they want to spread on you or push on you based on where you live. So it will later on nurture further, like nurture some agenda of their own.
And that agenda a lot of times involves money. A lot of it is money, selling you products as well. It's pretty terrifying thinking about the mechanisms. I mean, we listened to tech experts who had worked in companies like Google and Facebook describe these algorithms, and they sound all too nefarious. They sound like deliberate, cynical means to manipulate human psychology and train you and groom you from the ground up over a prolonged period of time to turn into an addicted individual who's there they form your psyche in a way where you're more inclined to buy certain products. And that's what's happening. You're the product. You're being peddled. But I'm interested, Rania, because you've seen this documentary about the effects of social media. It's called The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix. Has the documentary in any way posited any positive use of social media apps? It spoke about the negative aspects, but are there any positive ways we could harness these tools that we have before us?
There's one thing that they said, and I don't know if this is right or wrong. They say that don't look at your notifications. Turn off the notifications immediately. Don't be inclined to always respond to all the notifications you get, or kind of spend your time away from your devices less. And I'm not going to mention the company names, but they're saying that you should, on certain social media platforms, you should replace it with other social media platforms, because certain social media platforms that we use, they feed off of that attention that we give them, of the clicks, of the views, of that, and they push ads on us. Whereas there are other social media platforms, as in exchange to those companies, they don't do that, according to them. So that's just one thing. And they're saying that just don't kind of try to isolate yourself from your device as much as you can and interact with people, real life people, every day, rather than on your phone. So it's just one thing that it's an advice that they're giving, but really they talked about more of the negative implication that it has than the positive ones, because that's the whole documentary is all about the inside scoop of what they don't want us to know, because they know everything about us. We don't know anything about them. And another alarming situation as well, there has been a gigantic increase in depression and anxiety, and we were talking about this because of this, in line with World Mental Health Day yesterday. There has been a gigantic increase in depression and anxiety, especially for American teenagers, which began right around between 2011 and 2013. The number of teenage girls out of 100,000 in the USA who were admitted to a hospital every year because they, for example, they hurt themselves or harmed themselves. That number was pretty stable until around 2010, 2011, and then it began going up. It went up 62% for older teenage girls, and it's up 189% for pre-teen girls. That's nearly triple. Even more horrifying, we see the same pattern with people taking away their own lives. And that pattern points to social media. That's what they're saying, according to those experts. Gen Z, the kids born after 1996 or so, the Generation Z, those kids are the first generation in history that got on social media in middle school. And that's a whole generation, according to them, that is more anxious, more fragile, more depressed, and more lonely because of social media. Yeah, social media is definitely a factor here, according to the experts. Also the fact that there are a million other factors involved in why people are more depressed as well, including economic uncertainty for young people in this day and age. For a lot of people around the world, the prospect of buying a house, which to their grandparents or even parents seemed like a normal thing, today to these young people seems like an unrealistic, unfeasible prospect as well. Nevertheless, the social dilemma is pretty effective here at sounding the alarm about the impact of social mining, data mining, the way technology manipulates your psychology and grooms you to become addicted to it in order to sell you more and more products. And the movie elaborated on those algorithms in more detail. It's pretty interesting, though, because the movie itself is streamed on Netflix, which has its own database algorithms. Exactly.
We're streaming this on the YouTube channel at Pulse 95. So social media is ubiquitous. It's not something you can escape. It'll always be part of your life. But to be aware of those mechanisms and those algorithms and where you are in this equation is important. Yeah, and it dictates your behavior and guides you along because it's a very challenging time.
It is. There's always two sides of every story or of every coin, let's say.
Yeah.
So, just use it wisely and know the facts.
Know the facts. Use it wisely. The Social Dilemma on Netflix is streaming at the moment. And let us know. Text us at 4215. If you have any thoughts about the conversation we had about the dangerous impact of social media. Do you agree with that statement? How does it make you feel? Text lines are open. 4215.
If you liked this episode of The Morning Majlis, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.